Hello, hello everyone. Welcome. Drop some fire in the comments so that I know you guys can hear me well. Give me some love so I know that I'm not going to be here talking to myself. Thank you guys for tuning in. Looking forward to having this conversation with you guys. Awesome, awesome. Okay. So let me get back to my presentation. Okay. So, hi everyone. Tonight we're going to be talking about how to start a tribal business, specifically starting a tribal business within our tribal jurisdiction, which is the jurisdiction of the Xi-Amaru Republic. My name is Nnakina Xi-Amaru Fears. I am the chief of the Xi-Amaru Republic and the CEO of Aboriginal Ministry of Justice, and I will be your host tonight, or whenever you're watching this. That being said, I want to get into a quick scripture, which we take from Isaiah 58:12, which it says, people will rebuild the ancient ruins and will raise up the age-old foundations. You will be called repairers of broken walls, restorer of streets with dwellings. So when it comes to the Shamaru Republic, this is who we are. We are the pyramid builders. So the Shamaru people, just to give you guys an understanding of who we are the original pyramid builders of the Americas who were misclassified into different names throughout the Americas. Some were called Black, Negro, many different variations of name since colonization impact. And now what we are doing is we are utilizing our indigenous rights to basically bring dignity and honor back to our people through the exercise of indigenous rights, which gives us the ability to operate lawfully within the land that we dwell and be able to restore the damage that was caused through colonization. So that's really what we do. And I want you to understand that this tonight is more than just learning about registering a company. It's about understanding what a tribal business is, why it matters, and how building within our jurisdiction restores opportunity, identity, and generational wealth for our people. But before I get into that, I want you to understand what the vision is when it comes to the Shamaru Republic. Our vision is to build a resilient and autonomous Shamaru nation rooted in God, knowledge, and guided by principles of justice and respect. We envision a future where our people are fully recognized, self-sustaining, and able to exercise their rights on an equal footing within the global community. The Shamaru Republic seeks to serve as a model of indigenous governance, setting a precedent for cultural integrity, sustainable development, and harmonious coexistence. And also, when it comes to our mission, the mission of the Xi-Amaru Republic Indigenous government is to empower and protect the rights, heritage, and well-being of the Xi-Amaru Republic. We are committed to promoting self-determination, cultural preservation, and social and economic prosperity throughout sustainable governance, legal autonomy, and community-centered initiatives. We aim to create a thriving environment where our citizens can flourish and contribute positively to society. That being said, I want to get into the objectives for today. What you should leave here once we are finished is understanding the legacy that we come from, defining and understanding what a tribal business is, understanding how recognize legal foundations that we stand on so that we can lawfully operate within the lands and how we are able to provide services and opportunities to our people and also to non-tribal members. We're also going to be touching on different business models so that you have a better understanding between LLC, corporations, and how a tribal business may be beneficial to you. We're also going to be talking about empowering and advocacy actions that we can have and that we take. And we also want to cover the benefits. I know a lot of times people aren't fully clear on these topics, so we want to make sure that after today or whenever you're watching this, that you are able to make an informed decision if creating a tribal business is right for you, and also how that can not only benefit you as an individual, but overall as a community when it comes to establishing and building within our tribal jurisdiction. And then we're also going to acknowledge how the Shamaru Republic is basically leading the movement when it comes to bringing the rights of Indigenous people within the Americas and how we are at the forefront of that. That being said, one moment. I just wanna make sure, again, guys, give me some love, let me know that you guys can hear me. You guys know we're not used to this YouTube thing, but I'm hoping that we are able to pull this off tonight for you guys. Awesome, awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. I see y'all in there. Okay, okay, I see y'all, tribal family. Awesome. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget, go ahead and share this video. You know, if you are a tribal member and you have family members, people who have been asking about your nation and understanding business, this is what you want them to come in on because this is a powerful topic that we're going to be covering. So make sure to share and like, and don't forget to subscribe as well. That being said, guys, why tribal businesses matter. Okay. So, for generations, we understand that Indigenous people had thriving economies and systems of trade, but colonization left us misclassified, denationalized, and cut off from our rightful economies. That separation denied us wealth and stability that should have been ours by right. Today, through tribal businesses under the Xi-Amaru Republic jurisdiction, we are rebuilding those systems. Every tribal business is an act of restoration, healing, and empowerment. So the big thing about us is we don't believe in repeating the old conversation when it comes to are we indigenous or the things that will distract us. We are focused on establishing an economy that our people can thrive in. And the way we do that is through business. Give me one moment here. And I think what's important to understand about what's going on now today is how we got here. So I want to take you guys on a quick journey into our past to the future. When it comes to the past, Indigenous people had strong economies. Colonization disrupted those systems. Disobedient to God disrupted those systems. Worshiping other gods destroyed those systems, and therefore we have encountered the damage that we have encountered within the Americas because of those reasons, right? Legacy. The legacy is clear. Our people were misclassified, denationalized, and forced into dependency, meaning that we were cut off from rightful economies and being able to manage our resources and ourselves to having to establish and support the development by forced labor and many other things when it comes to establishing other nations. So therefore, when people talk about us specifically, they're like, "Well, where is your history?" Or, you know, they act confused when it comes to us specifically as a group. But what we understand is the reason Indigenous communities like ours ceased at a point wasn't because we up and vanished. It was just because we were disrupted from the way of life that we had. Now in the present, through I would say through some reason, my screen froze on me. Okay, here we go. But now in the present, guys, the Xi-Amaru Republic provides a lawful path to rebuild. Our tribal businesses are recognized as exempt entities in the U.S. jurisdictions, which gives us the ability to establish an economy that will help us restore the gap that we have because of the delays that we've experienced within society. So therefore, these opportunities are a big way for us to bridge the gap when it comes to the wealth gap that our people have experienced and working towards a sustainable system where it is controlled by us, for us, and also for us to contribute to the society that we are a part of. In the future, every tribal business creates jobs, opportunity, generational wealth, while strengthening our nation's governance and independence. This is why creating a business within our jurisdiction is so important. It's not just about you looking for an exit plan or a strategy, out of what you've been doing, but understanding that we are here to pour into each other, provide opportunities for one another, and be able to support the advancement of our people through this structure. Okay. And just to confirm, let me see here. Can you guys okay, the sound is going in and out. Let's see. Can you guys hear me now? I wanna make sure. How about now, guys? Can you hear me? Can hear me, go ahead and confirm. Okay, okay. Just make sure that you guys can hear me. I don't wanna miss this. Okay. So am I guys, are you guys can you guys hear me clearly? Okay, so go ahead now. Give me 1 second, guys. Let me see. Okay, okay. How about now? Still patchy. Hmm. Let me see. I might have to jump off and jump back in, but let's see. I'm gonna try one more thing, and if that doesn't work, then we're gonna have to come back in. Okay. Confirm, guys. Is it better now? Okay, awesome, awesome. Okay, okay, that's good. Okay, let's go then. Well, I'm sure you guys heard a little bit, but I'm gonna go back just to make sure that you guys didn't miss anything when it comes to our journey. Okay, let's go back a little bit. Okay. So I'm just gonna go back to the beginning since we were basically in the beginning anyways. That being said, I want to get back into you guys understanding why tribal businesses matter. For generations, like I was saying earlier, Indigenous people had thriving economies and systems of trade, but due to one, our disobedience to God and colonization left us misplaced, denationalized, and cut off from our rightful economy. That separation denied us wealth and stability that should have been ours by right. Today, through tribal businesses under our jurisdiction within the Xi-Amaru Republic, we are rebuilding those systems. Every tribal business is an act of restoration. I was saying is an act of healing and empowerment. Before I get into how to create a tribal business, I want us to understand the journey from the past to the future when it comes to what we're doing. In the past, we had strong economies that were disrupted by colonization. We also understand that this was also by the act of God for turning away and worshiping other gods. When it comes to our jurisdiction, that is what we believe happened to us within the Americas and what we understand to be a fact. And now we understand that, so we're not here to complain about this, it's more so to be aware of how we got here and understand that the legacy left us misclassified, stripped of recognition, and dependent on systems that were not our own. Many time people are asking, well, how is it that you guys don't have what they assume is culture, or how is it that we are indigenous people? And the biggest thing that many people miss is when it comes to misclassify people who were misclassified Black, African American, colors, Negro, whatever the term is, depending on the location that the people were in during colonization, whether they were under European colonization or um, they were under Spanish colonization or whatever happened. You know, this happened throughout the Americas. And this is why, when it comes to the history of our people, it has been not not kept sacred, I would say, when it comes to other people who a lot like our experience is very unique as Xi-Amaru people within the lands. So, but we do understand that that is because we were busy. And when I say we, I'm referring to our ancestors within the Americas were busy establishing and building other people's systems. And that's why you saw a seize or a period where indigenous systems no longer basically came to a pause. However, in the present, the Shamaru Republic provides a lawful path to rebuild. Tribal businesses recognized as exempt entities is basically provides a lawful path, like I said, where our tribal business are recognized as exempt entities in the U.S. jurisdictions, which gives us the ability to catch up when it comes to the wealth gap that we have within the Americas between our people and other people who don't have the same experience. So that is where we're at presently. That being said, in the future, we are hopeful that every tribal business will create job opportunities and generational wealth while strengthening our nation's governance and independence. So that is what we're thriving for. Empowerment through tribal enterprise. Tribal businesses are more than profit, they are tools of restoration. It's important for us to understand they are tools of renewal. Every business we establish creates income and jobs, strengthens cultural pride, builds self reliance, and leaves a legacy for future generations. So, this is important for us to really understand why should someone create a business within our jurisdiction, especially if you are a Xi-Amaru Native American or someone who has been misclassified. Understanding that this is more than just starting a company or doing something. It's really to establish a structure where, one, you're a part of an economy that is controlled by you and people like you, and you would no longer be capped on how you are able to progress. So what does this mean is, or why I should say, why we say business, it's about healing. It's about restoration. It's about legacy. that is what creating a tribal business within our jurisdiction is about. Legal foundation, our rights. So how are we able to provide these opportunities to our people? Well, I'm glad you asked. When it comes to how our nation operates, our foundation is basically with the American Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People and our Constitution. That being said, articles specifically from from ADRIP, it it affirms our right to economic, political, and cultural development. A lot of times when people think of tribal nations or the advancement of indigenous people, they see it as people who have to be stuck in the past. However, when we understand development, we understand that that is progressive. That doesn't mean we have to become our ancestors to be able to represent ourselves within the land as who we are as indigenous people. When it comes to our culture specifically, we understand that the original or the primary culture that we come from was disrupted. So we're not here to go back and pretend like what happened within the Americas didn't happen. We're just here to continue to progress now that we understand how to properly move within society so that our people can advance. Then we have Article 22, where it talks and focuses on indigenous governance systems and how they must be recognized. But I want to go ahead, give me one moment here. I'm going to go to these so that you guys have better context when it comes. And if you haven't read the American Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, especially if you are a Xi-Amaru native, I highly recommend you take the time to just go over it. And we will be bringing more education on these topics for you guys in the near future. But that being said, specifically Article 22, which is Indigenous law and jurisdiction. Number one, it says Indigenous people have the right to promote, develop, and maintain their institutional structures and their distinctive customs, spirituality, traditions, procedures, practices, and in the cases where they exist, judicial, juridical systems or customs in accordance with international human rights standards. Number two, Indigenous law and legal systems shall be recognized and respected by national, regional, and international legal systems. Number three, matters concerning Indigenous individuals or their rights or interests in the jurisdiction of each state shall be conducted in such a way as to afford Indigenous individuals the right to full representation with dignity and equality before the law. Consequently, they are entitled without discrimination to equal protection and benefit of the law, including the use of linguistic and cultural interpreters. And number four, states shall take effective measures in conjunction with Indigenous peoples to ensure the implementation of this article. Okay, so that is a part of the legal foundation on how we are able to assist our people in the creation of tribal businesses lawfully and legally within the land, whether people are not informed or confused on how we lawfully operate. We're here to basically make sure that our people and those who may be interested in coming up and becoming a part of this jurisdiction as we continue to advance are aware on how these things are lawfully done. And then we have Article 25, which is basically talking about the right to control lands, resources, and economic institutions. Let me go there real quick. So it talks about traditional forms of property and cultural survival, right to land, territory, and resources. Number one, Indigenous peoples have the right to maintain and strengthen their distinct spiritual, cultural, and material relationship with their lands, territories, and resources and to uphold their responsibilities to preserve them for themselves and for future generations. Indigenous peoples, number two, Indigenous peoples have the right to the lands, territories, and resources which they have traditionally owned, occupied, or otherwise used or acquired. Number three, Indigenous people have the right to own, use, develop, and control the lands, territories, and resources that they possess by reason of traditional ownership or other traditional occupation or use, as well as those which they have otherwise acquired. Number four, states shall give legal recognition and protection to these lands, territories, and resources. Such recognition shall be conducted with due respect to the customs, traditions, and land tenure systems of the indigenous peoples concerned. And number five, Indigenous peoples have the right to legal recognition of the various and particular modalities and forms of property, possession, and ownership of their lands, territories, and resources in accordance with the legal system of each state and the relevant international instruments. States shall establish special regimens appropriated for such recognition and for their effective demarcation or titling. Now, I want us to look up the basic definition of the word resource or resources, because I think a lot of time we read but we don't understand. Can somebody drop it in the comment? What is the definition of resources? Resource. And this is just a Google basic definition. It says a stock or supply of money, materials, staff, and other assets that can be drawn on by a person or organization in order to function effectively. Synonyms, we have assets, funds, wealth, money, riches, capital, people, material, supply, pool, you name it. Another definition for resource is an action or strategy which may be adopted in adverse circumstances. Okay? So when we're talking about tribal entities, this is what we are putting in action lawfully. We are not asking for permission. We are exercising lawful rights that already exist. Okay? Now let's get into the juicy part. What is a tribal business? I just want to make sure you guys are still with me. So go ahead and drop some comment in the chat, y'all. Let me know that you guys can hear me. Go ahead and, okay, I see y'all. I see y'all. Appreciate y'all. Don't forget to go ahead and share, y'all. Like, put it on your Facebook, wherever you have your social media platform. Make sure that our people are aware that this exists, because let's just be honest, we're ahead of the games. But anyways, okay, let's get back. So what is a tribal business? A tribal business is a business entity lawfully formed and recognized under the jurisdiction of the Xi-Amaru Republic, identified as a tribal entity of the nation, acknowledged by the IRS, and operating as an exempt entity within the U.S. jurisdiction. Keep in mind, when we're talking from our nation, we are specifically referring to terms and how we use them, so that people are able to be aware of how, so specifically what I'm getting at is how we reference these terms is determined by our right to how we communicate. So this is the lawful definition for us within our jurisdiction on what a tribal business is. Again, to make it more simple, It is a business lawfully formed and recognized under our jurisdiction. It is identified as a tribal entity, acknowledged by the IRS, operates as an exempt entity in the U.S. jurisdiction, meaning we have full control on how this business operates. And it can be for-profit or nonprofit. And it serves both individual, wealth building, and national development. Characteristics of a tribal business. The characteristics are clear. So for a tribal business, we understand that it is registered under the Xi-Amaru Republic governance, not state law. Our tribal entities or tribal businesses are basically, we notify the IRS of this tribal entity status. It can be a for-profit and nonprofit, both qualifying for exemption. Another characteristic is it's rooted in heritage and indigenous identity. And the last is it strengthens the Xi-Amaru Republic economy. Keep in mind, guys, when we're talking about tax exemptions, though, because I know a lot of people use these words as clickbaits or hot topics. Specifically for us, that's not really our concern. When we are talking about tax exemptions within our jurisdiction, we are talking about the opportunity for our people to advance and repair the damage that was done to them and to us due to the gap that we've experienced in the times that we were not able to lawfully govern ourselves. Okay, so that is why the Xi-Amaru Republic was established to give us the lawful authority to be able to have these gaps filled. So that's why we have tax exemption. What is, give me one moment here. What is a regular business? And keep in mind, like I said, this is in reference to our jurisdiction. A regular business is a company registered under state or federal law, such as an LLC, corporation, a partnership, sole proprietor, or other names or tribal entities that may be operating within the other jurisdiction. This includes, they are governed basically by state codes, fully taxable, depending on their structures, and disconnected from cultural identity or reparations. They exist only under colonial systems, particularly, whereas tribal businesses are recognized as part of our restoration. Now, keep in mind that even if you are within our jurisdiction, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to pick one or the other. It all comes down to, we want to make sure that you know your options and the options that are available to you within this society, that you can make a decision on how you want to advance your family. But we're not here to tell you what is right and what is wrong. We just want to make sure that you understand the opportunities that are available to you. And depending on the situation, it could be that you may need both types of entity depending on the wealth strategy that you want to establish for your family. So it's not a one is better or worse. It's just making sure that you guys understand what exists. Tribal business versus regular business. So what we can see here, the differences are simple. Regular businesses are taxable, controlled by the state, and tied to other frameworks that are not under our authority. So meaning that it could be state and federally, and the federal government has control over a regular business. When it comes to a tribal business, the Xi-Amaru Republic has governance over that entity. The type of entity that regular businesses have LLCs, corporation partnerships. Our nation has nation-recognized tribal entities, which primarily within the other jurisdiction, we operate them as unincorporated associations. That is the base structure. However, depending on the industry that an individual chooses, will determine how we see that entity within our jurisdiction, but it is communicated within the other jurisdiction as a unincorporated association for banking purposes and things of that nature. But that's the basis. And then recognition. So a regular business has domestic and foreign state entities. When it comes to a tribal business within our jurisdiction, the IRS is notified about the tribal entity from us. And then taxes, which is the regular business, is fully taxable under US law. When it comes to a tribal entity or a tribal business within our jurisdiction, it is exempt within the US jurisdiction. Now, keep in mind, just because we're talking about exemptions in the other jurisdiction, even though right now we don't currently have fees and taxation implemented in our system, those are things that will be coming up in the years ahead or in a time period. But right now is the best time to build, because basically we have provided our people the opportunity to build basically limitless. So if you're not working towards establishing wealth within this period of time, you're going to miss out. So this is the best time to establish, because we don't want to put a lot of burden and stress on our people. We're hoping that they take advantage of these things and establish themselves before, more protocols and more procedure comes in, so that you can catch up. That's what our system is all about. It's not about taking from our people, but providing opportunities that they can pour back into themselves, their families, and then be able to pour back into the nation. And we do that as a collective. That being said, identity. No cultural, no reparative links. It's just a business that you have. And now that doesn't mean that you don't have access to things within that jurisdiction. It's just not from a cultural perspective specifically, when it comes to regular business. With a tribal business, it's rooted in indigenous law and values, meaning when it comes to a good example of this is someone who may be, you know, have a gift from God of healing, and they are able to get inspiration on how to create remedies and things of that nature, and utilizing the land to heal and assist in the advancement of the people, that they can do that lawfully and not have to be penalized or potentially looked down upon, because other regulations may restrict that, may say you cannot lawfully claim to heal or whatever the case may be, and then you can end up in in a situation that would not be beneficial to you, where you can receive fines and things of that nature, versus if you have a tribal business, you have that protection. Okay. And also restorative justice, operate. So exemption is basically a form of reparations. So we're not out here asking people to directly, pay back. And I'm not here to say, people who do that, it's just not something that we do. We're not here to judge. It's just not what we do. Our goal is to protect the energy that our people have, meaning their abilities to work, or their children, or their families. We do have people who are retired as well, so it doesn't mean that the whole population is taking advantage of that. However, we do want to make sure that we're protecting what our people build. Okay. So key point, tribal businesses are recognized and exempt. A direct restorative restoration of economic rights. Citizens versus non-members. I'm sure you're wondering, well, who can take advantage of these entities and who can establish one within the jurisdiction? So for Xi-Amaru Native Americans, they have the ability to registration means reduced fees, exemption tied to heritage, and the ability to build generational wealth. So specifically for our tribal members, they will have the abilities to tap in, and now keep in mind, even though we don't advertise specifically, like grants and things of that nature. Those opportunities are available to our people. So anything, once you go through the citizenship procedure and you have a tribal business within our jurisdiction, you can lawfully utilize your documentation to pursue those types of opportunities. Okay. Even if we're not telling you that, even if we don't have it directly on our website, you now have lawfully the ability to tap in and utilize and access those resources, even though we are not federally recognized. A lot of times people confuse federal recognition as permission to operation. That is not what federal recognition is, guys. Federal recognition is simply the ability to have a excuse, I would say, to make it simple, on being able to upfront beg the other system for support. However, we are an autonomous nation, meaning that we are self-funded in a sense. So this is why also having tribal entity is so important for us to advance our development as a group, because we are not dependent or depending on other systems directly to maintain our operations. The Xi-Amaru Republic functions solely by its people currently, not saying that there aren't opportunities that we will be able to pursue eventually as a nation, because we do want to eventually tap in to establishing relationships that we can bring other opportunities, but that's a whole different conversation for another time. But that being said, guys, again, you have the right to pursue options that are out there. So make sure you are taking advantage of that. I do want to mention, even though I don't have it on here, we will be posting within the next month, which is something we've been talking about, even when it comes to the business licensing, specifically for those who want to be able to represent their nation and be able to um, educate people and do it through business. Those opportunities are coming to you guys. We are working to bring more opportunities and more things that you guys can invest in to advance yourself and your nation. So just be on the lookout for that information. And we will be posting. So if you have a tribal business, or if you will create a tribal business, we will have a system where people will be able, like, let's say you're someone who may be inquiring or looking to pursue a grant offer or something of that nature. We will have a system where people will be able to come and search for your tribal business. So, because again, our businesses are not registered with the Secretary of State, they're registered within the Shamaru Republic. So, when it comes to verifying a tribal business, only we can verify if it's actually a tribal business of ours or not. So, we do plan to do that, and we will be showing the businesses that are active, the businesses that are inactive, and businesses that are canceled and things of that nature. So just be on the lookout. We're working to continue to advance our nation as we grow. But yeah, now let's get into the process for non-members and who we consider allies. People who may be considering creating a business under our jurisdiction, they can also do that. Non-members, like I said, they are allies. Registration is also possible. Their businesses are recognized as exempt entities as well, with access to indigenous markets and protections. Non-members are seen as partners in restoration. We have the opportunity to have other people who may be interested in advancing, their wealth, or may want to grow and partner with us, so they can also create a tribal entity. Is not necessarily primarily exclusive for Xi-Amaru Native Americans, but the thing that varies is fees in certain cases and things of that nature. Why choose the Xi-Amaru Republic jurisdiction? Because our vision and mission are clear. Our governance is protected under indigenous international law, and our exemptions within the U.S. jurisdiction serve as a form of reparation. It's not just a choice of jurisdiction, it's a choice of justice for our people. So it's definitely something that you should consider. Benefits to the individual. For individuals, the benefits include access to tribal banking, access to banking, credit, and contracts, operating with both cultural and legal recognition within the land, eligibility for tax exemption certificate, building generational wealth and legacy for your family. I mean, yeah. And then the benefits to the nation. Because, for a nation to be able to support its people, it also has to reap. So the primary thing that we focus on to build a sustainable nation is creating a system that the people in the system is able to grow together, not one taking more, like, the system isn't taking over the people and the people ain't taking over the system. So we're working to create harmony. So that is why it also has benefits to the nation. It strengthens the Xi-Amaru economy. It creates jobs and services for our people. It promotes independent governance, and it builds long-term stability. The Xi-Amaru Republic leaders in tribal business development. This is why they mad, y'all. So what I mean by that, let me keep it clean. Let me keep it clean. But this is why they mad. Is the reality is we are currently establishing relationships to make sure that our people have a legal backing when it comes to being able to carry on their operations in their everyday life. The Xi-Amaru Republic is setting the standard for Indigenous business governance. Our framework includes IRS recognized exempt entities, international legal protections, structure process, so our articles, banking, tax certifications, among the first Indigenous nations with a complete business system. So because we are exercising our rights, we are lawfully creating a system where our people have full access to how things progress. And that is a game changer when it comes to us repairing the damage that has happened within the land. Getting into the IRS a little bit more. So recognition at the federal level, IRS notification. So no, guys, the Xi-Amaru Republic is not a federally recognized tribe. However, as we went over the American Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, at this point you should recognize or understand what kind of recognition we do have versus what kind of recognition we don't have. So lawfully, we have a connection with the IRS, and we are working to grow that connection and that relationship as well. But at this point in time, when it comes to tribal businesses, each tribal business is a tribal entity of the Xi-Amaru Republic, and the IRS is formally notified of this status. So whenever someone starts the process and gets their businesses, start their business process, then that individual is able to um, lawfully be able to operate once they have their documentation. So yeah, so as soon as you get your documentation, you shouldn't be wondering what's next. The next step is literally start. Okay. And what does this do for our people? It provides legitimacy, exempt recognition, credibility with banks and partners. Your business is valid both within the Xi-Amaru Republic and on the federal level. One moment, you guys. Okay. Nonprofit versus profit. Now, keep in mind when it comes to the system with the IRS, many people get confused because of the way their EIN is normally structured. Keep in mind the systems that we are interacting with, they're not all the way advanced when it comes to how we're operating. That is why relationship is so important. That is why continuously educating people is so important, so that they are able to go ahead and move forward and understand how to properly serve our people. And that is basically why we're here. So In some cases, people may get confused because it does say, like, it assumes that it is tax, like it's a nonprofit. Now, keep in mind, because it's a tribal entity, right now, the IRS system can only recognize, or the system, like literally the computers I'm talking about, they don't have a direct way to say, okay, this is a tax exempt tribal entity. They just, in their system, classify automatically per se. As nonprofit, but that doesn't mean it's a nonprofit. Okay, so that's important to understand, especially once you get your documentation. And we will be covering more business. This is just the base level right now for you guys to understand what a tribal entity is. But that being said, so you have nonprofit versus profit and tax exemption and flexibility. What does this mean? In many systems, only nonprofits can be tax exempt. That is not the case with tribal entities. So, depending on your mission, you can choose to have a nonprofit, but it is not a requirement. And no, our businesses are not churches. They're not. Keep in mind, whenever the other jurisdiction has their system, okay, let me pause. Every system decides how their entities will communicate. This is why it's so dangerous to just listen to the next person that pops up on the internet and starts talking, because now they're putting you at risk because they're not actually qualified to give you certain information. And this is why many people end up in such a mess, because they're they're getting information that is confused. The only place that can tell you how to operate a business within that jurisdiction is the jurisdiction itself. Okay, so for regular businesses, if they say this is how a church operates in our jurisdiction, that is how it operates. You don't get to say, well, I am a church or this and that. And that, again, it's very dangerous to move and listen to people, because then you end up paying the consequence long term. So please make sure you are doing your research, make sure you are educating yourself properly as you continue to move in society, because the reality is the enemy is out to steal your resources. And a lot of times that happens because we are either moving from a desperate place and just not doing the necessary due diligence. And in the Xi-Amaru Republic, profit-based and nonprofit businesses are both exempt. That is a requirement that we have established. And when we say exempt, we're talking about exempt within the U.S. jurisdiction. Our jurisdiction, at some point, like I mentioned earlier, will be able to, you know, implement taxation. But at this stage right now that we're at, we want people to be able to grow in our jurisdiction. And to be honest, we're hopeful that you guys will grow and become cheerful givers. That way we can keep living and we don't have to start implementing all types of regulations and rule. So take advantage of this, establish yourself, and grow. And this restores our right to wealth building, guys. That's really what this comes down to, is profit and purpose are not in conflict here. They work together as part of our restoration and reparations, to be honest. That's what it comes down to when it comes to having a tribal entity. Taking action, how to get started. All you have to do is go to aboriginalministryofjustice.org/business. You can learn more about tribal entities. You can start a business there. Now, keep in mind, we are still allowing people to start certain process directly on the website, but depending on when you are watching this, or if you are watching this a later time in the future, that may have changed. So make sure you are staying up to date with the most accurate information. So just go to our website and learn a little bit more about that. And the larger vision, guys, we're almost done. We're almost done. Hang in there. Now, what is the larger vision, guys? Tribal business equals engines of renewal. Okay. Each one helps reverse misclassification and exclusion. That is what this is about. It's not just about, oh, I want to start a business, I just want to do this. It's about repairing the breach, bringing back a foundation that our people can look back on and be thankful that their people took action and did something for them. What does it restore? opportunity, identity, economic strength, generational wealth. Business equals healing. Business equals reparations. Business equals legacy. Don't get no more simple than that. And how we are raising awareness, we are basically gonna start like we're doing now. We want to bring more live education for you guys. So make sure that you are subscribing to our YouTube channel. Make sure you are subscribed to our newsletter by going to aboriginalministryofjustice.org, and that you are notified. We are working with our team, and working, as we try to use the resources that we have to bring more awareness so that you guys can build your confidence as you exercise your rights. We're going to be doing community workshops soon, and success stories from business owners. So go ahead and start establishing that business, get that business going, because this lane that you have is it's literally your lane. So don't wait for other people to come in and then say, oh, I should have. Don't be that person. This is a time to take advantage and establish yourself. Doesn't mean it's easy, but we're going to work on bringing you guys more information so that you can get going and moving forward. But at the end of the day, the goal is to make tribal businesses a normal and respected path when it comes to entrepreneurship. And final remarks, guys. You know, what can I say? This is not easy, when it comes to what we're doing. And I'm aware that many of you guys see the battles that we face to certain degrees, especially right now as we are continuing to repair the damage that has been done to our people. But the reality is, this is worth fighting for. This is worth us taking up our crosses and investing in ourselves and building. And what we have for you guys is an opportunity for you to really make a change in your bloodline. It's not just about being Indigenous, it's about establishing legacy that our future generations can look back on and be grateful that their people did something. Don't be the person that keeps sitting on the sideline, y'all. It's time to take up your bed and walk, literally. It's time for you to step in the game. We are here every day. As your chief, I'm here every day looking on how we can bring more prosperity to you guys. But I heard someone once say is that you can take someone to a well, but you can't get them to drink. They have to decide to drink. This is for you. This is for us. We're here. We have our team here. And keep in mind, guys, this nation, you guys already know, we don't have any we don't have anything that is other than when you pay your service. So you have to get moving. You have to get moving. Take advantage of the opportunities that are here. Yes, we've experienced a lot of things in the past. Our ancestors experienced a lot, but the reality is this is the best time to be alive. The best time. Make it count, y'all. God has literally prepared and made our crooked path straight. But it's up to us to take it and walk on it. So, that being said, I encourage you to consider starting a business if you haven't started one. If you have one, be on the lookout for more information. But if you have your documents in your hand, there should be no reason you are not in operation. Get yourself out there, save up the money, start the website, get the phone number, get the business going. This is not the time to sit down. People are looking for you. We like I said, we're about to start publishing who has a business. And if you're not on that list, you're going to miss out opportunities. People are becoming more aware of us every day. Even our enemies are making us popular. Come on. Don't get discouraged. Use it. this is a time for you to tap in. But I just want to say thank you guys for joining. I hope you guys take away something from this. And we have other tribal meetings and not meetings, we have other tribal events coming up. Make sure that you are subscribed to our YouTube that you don't miss when we are here. Make sure that you are connected. You know, if you have any questions, we have free appointments. You are able to book those right now. If you need to come into the office itself, we do work by appointments only. So you have to reach out to our department to set up an appointment and be able to come in person. But we are here serving you guys Monday through Friday. Let's go. But thank you guys. Bye for now.